found ways, in fact, programs have come down from the Department of Justice to give us ways to partner with our local and state law enforcement brethren. And so I think that has been the biggest difference so far, is that you got the ATF and a sheriff's deputy, special agent, sheriff's deputy talking to one another about the same gun case. That's incredibly important to us. The intelligence that is shared, the street cops, they have all the great intelligence. You know, they're the tip of the spear. And our federal agencies are fantastic. There's not enough of them. You give me 200 more FBI agents and we'll solve all the crimes you want us to in the Northern District. But until that happens, we have to partner with the locals, and frankly, they need to partner with us too. We have some wonderful investigative tools at the federal level that just aren't available to state law enforcement. Wiretaps are a great example. We don't have a state wiretap law, but we do have Title III wiretaps at the federal level, where we can get a lot of intelligence on a lot of bad people, and that's the idea. We have a program in the department called Project Safe Neighborhoods. It's been around for a long time, but it sort of waned over recent years. And a 2.0 was just released by the DAG and the AG. And what PSN does is it really goes into our worst neighborhoods and our worst areas, our crime-ridden areas, where we have people living in their houses who can't go outside. They're prisoners in their own homes because of the criminal activity that is outside of those homes. So this program allows us to partner with those local law enforcement agencies, so we can not only target those areas, but we can target the bad guys that are in those areas, those worst offenders. And if they are worst offenders, if they are criminals, then we get them off the street, and we give those neighborhoods back to the people that deserve to live in peace. And that is something that's very important to me. I think it's important to the community, especially right here in Birmingham. One of the other things we have here in Birmingham is called the Public Safety Partnership. And again, partnership is one of these words you keep hearing. PSP is it's sort of a national data collection where they help us do our policing. They help us enforce our laws and make these arrests, these targeted enforcement arrests, by using data to help us show what works, what doesn't, which areas where the crime is starting to accelerate, where the crime is actually going down, and then we look at the policing efforts in those areas and maybe find out reasons why, so we can ship them over to other neighborhoods and sort of transit these positive law enforcement techniques that we're using that are working and put them in other places so they work there as well. Not everything's always going to work. It's not cookie cutter. But this is a national program that the Attorney General gave the Northern District of Alabama, and Jeff Sessions really does believe that this program in our district really is the pilot for the rest of the country. So
that's impressive.
We were honored to get it,
yes.
And there's a lot of pressure to that. But with that comes a great opportunity for our district to show what we're made of, to show how these partnerships do work, how we do get along, and we do. A.C. Roper and Sheriff Hale, who I was with earlier today, all of our SACs and ASACs, that Special Agents in Charge, Assistant Special Agents in Charge that we have of our agencies, they're all fantastic gentlemen and ladies, and so we have a great bunch of partners to work with and network with. One of the other programs that's very important, we hear in the news about this opioid crisis, which absolutely is a crisis.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not just a crisis from the sense that heroin is back on the rise, methamphetamines are back on the rise, but also these what are otherwise legal narcotics. Right. These pills and patches
drugs
and things, absolutely, abuse of prescription drugs. That is one of the greatest sort of uptick of just overdoses and overdose deaths that are affecting everyone. There's not a certain neighborhood. You can't hide from this. If you're at this neighborhood versus this neighborhood, it doesn't matter.
It spans the spectrum.
And it doesn't take long for you to take 3 or 4 OxyContin pills to be addicted
Absolutely.
To opioids. And so we have formed the Opioid Pilot Project, and I've actually formed a task force around it that is tackling these pill mill doctors, these medical prescribers that are not prescribing for the efficacy of the drug or for the pain that is needed, but for the greed that goes along with prescribing those pills. So we're being very aggressive in that genre, as is the Attorney General's instructions.
Right. Let me tell you what strikes me about the partnership concept that you keep talking about, and I think it's impressive, because in partnering with local law enforcement, which always hadn't been the case, as you know, by doing that, you're not only making the neighborhoods and us as a society safer, but you're also getting closer to the truth, because that partnership means that more guilty people are arrested and the right people are being prosecuted.
That's correct. And we've included our district attorneys in that as
Good.
well. And being a state guy, I came from a state office. I already had relationships with many, if not all, of the DAs in the Northern District. And I've written a program that has been approved by the DOJ called the Prosecutor to Prosecutor Program, or P3. And it allows all of these cases that could be federal cases for these worst offenders, but they get charged state. They follow through whatever federal netting that we had set up, whatever task force didn't catch it. And those cases now can come to me directly through this system, this mechanism that we've set up, so that the worst offenders are prosecuted federally. You know, there's something to be said for federal prosecution when state sanction, based on our laws, based on our guidelines at the state level, don't quite adequately get that person off the street. And so that person, that mother of three who has school-age children who can't go play out in the front yard like I used to do, like you used to do, they can't go outside because the drug dealer's on the corner or people are shooting up houses driving up and down the street. We need to get those people off the street. That's yet another way that we can do that, and our DAs are helping us do that as well.
And both of the DAs, as you know, have been wonderful guests on our show. And
here in Jefferson County?
Yes.
Yes.
And they're great. I want to ask you, what is the most important thing for you to accomplish in your position?
Well, I want to make sure that all members of law enforcement are appreciated. I want to make sure that they not only know that we have their back, but that they have our thanks. I want to make sure that our communities are safer. We have an opportunity here where just in the Northern District, maybe not anywhere else, but right here with the sort of principles that are in place to really make a difference, to get some mechanisms in place that will go well beyond J-Town, they'll go beyond, Lanice and Danny and whoever else, because it'll create this system where these crooks and these bad guys and the people that are really making our neighborhoods awful places to live, those are our people. Those are our citizens, our neighbors. And while we might not live in that neighborhood and not have to see it every day, by God, we ought to do something about it, because there's an 8-year-old kid there that can go one way or the other. And so I would love to feel that when this is all over with, that I can look back and that there is a generation of children who went down the right path, because we got those people that were on the streets that would maybe tempt them to go a different direction. We got them off the streets so that they could go to the Boys and Girls Clubs, or they could visit with their grandmother and after school and learn some of those lessons that all help us throughout life. But they're not able to walk to Grandma's house now because it's in that part of town or whatever it might be. I would really love for that generation to have a better chance than they have right now, because we are losing in some of these areas, and we need to be back winning again. It's just too important to all of us to see things go to. We're the third highest murder rate in the country per capita here in Birmingham. Yeah. That's a problem. That's a federal problem now. And I'm going to do what I can to help Chief Roper and the new mayor and all our partners to get that cleaned up.
The other thing that you're talking about that I see that's helpful, valuable, invaluable, is that when you get the violent offenders, the people that need to be off the street, not only are you making it safer and freeing up individuals that are growing up there that could go one way or the other, but you're giving them a chance to have positive role models.
Absolutely, and I think that is when we do our community outreach portion of what our office also does. That is one of our messages, is that if you help us, community, if you help us get these bad actors out of your neighborhoods, you will have a better neighborhood, which translates into better opportunities and better fortunes for your children down the line. And I really believe that to be true. I'm not an economist. But it seems to me that the more advantages you have, the better off you're going to be later in life. The more opportunities that you can seek, the better your children are going to have it. So we need to give this next generation that ability, and we need to give parents the ability to give that generation those opportunities. So it's something we're working really hard to do, and it's not going to be a fight that lasts 2 weeks. Right. This is going to be around, this fight's going to keep going probably long after I've left. But when I do leave, I hope we're in a situation where sort of systemically we've got mechanisms in place that are fighting this every day because these partnerships are so robust.
What is the most satisfying part of your job?
The leadership part, surprisingly to me, is the most satisfying. I pride myself as sort of being a problem solver and an ideas guy, and when you're up for this job, when you're thinking about how you would be the U.S. attorney before you get it, you are sort of thinking of all these changes you might make. But then you inherit an office, you have 107.5 people, as I do, and you then realize you have to find ways to motivate them. And you have 107 problems, and you have 107 families that you're dealing with, and you want to motivate them to do things and execute the priorities of the Department of Justice, or my priorities, or both. And so the leadership part actually is very satisfying. Again, you asked me earlier on about my Marine Corps training, and that has really served me well because the leadership aspect of this job is so important, and you want morale to be high. Even if folks are doing maybe something that they didn't really sign up to do, but there's a new administration and those are our priorities now, find ways to make them successful, and they will be if you lead them correctly.
Well, let me just say this. It's been more than an honor to have you here with us. And I know that the public is going to watch this show and watch it again. And you have left an extraordinary imprint already, and you're just hitting the ground running. So we're honored to have you as our United States Attorney and have you here with us.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you, Richard, for having me. I appreciate you.
We'll see you next time on Alabama Justice.